Alright, so here's the funny thing. A couple of weeks, maybe even months ago, I made a couple of videos about the first Descendant, particularly Bunny, about how overpowered she is and how she trivializes content for the vast majority of the game, because it's only the Colossi fights that she doesn't dominate in. The Bunny enthusiasts found that video and don't vote to hell and comment and all these things. And similarly on the forums, Reddit and Steam, the persons who play Bunny have a similar mentality. You have the usual excuses. Oh, don't nerf in a PvE game. There's private mode. She's designed to speedrun this. You know, this is a farming character. All the usual excuses. So entered Ultimate Freyna. And that's when some person started, or more persons started to call for a nerf for Ultimate Freyna. Even though Ultimate Freyna, all they did, the rework did, was bring her up to Bunny's level. Suddenly people had the attention span of a goldfish and forgot that Bunny existed and wanted Freyna to be nerfed. So I believe the devs initially said that they would, but then they retracted that decision. Flash forward a couple of weeks or months, and another character, Ines, came out. Now honestly, at first I wasn't too interested in Ines, but this particular, when you see this, you're like, all right, cool. But she's actually quite a bit of fun. So she is an ad clearing monster like Bunny and Freyna. More on Bunny in a second. But she's more complicated to play than Freyna, more interactive. And I would argue Bunny as well, because for Bunny, once you build for cooldown and damage and a range, which is just ridiculous, you just cannot just run around, right? At least for Ines, you have to. Well, I suppose. I guess at best you would say that she is similarly complex to Bunny, because the way how she is designed, she either can do her stuff or she can't. If there's a lot of enemies that she can kill, then the plasma bar will fill up and she can do her massive stuff. If there isn't, then she's massively underwhelming. So that's Ines' thing, but she does allow you to tear through the grind, the void vessel and the 400% dungeon. Yeah, you can just tear through that. And that was reasonably fun, because the devs had said, so bear in mind, I was on the side of nerf Bunny to make other characters viable, and Bunny is a Bunny is a band-aid to the underlying disease. If you nerf Bunny and everyone has to go through the same or similar slog to get the materials, you would realize, oh, this process is very boring. This grind is unengaging. We need to fix the gameplay elements. That was one of the main reasons why I said that Bunny needed that nerf, because with her there, the excuse is always, and she was, you could get her for free easily, by the way. The excuse was always, well, just use Bunny and go through and bypass or compensate for this bad bit of game design. Now the devs say that they need to balance in, meaning nerf, to Freyna's level. Because when they try to balance content against overpowered characters, so now they're admitting that characters are overpowered, then the non-overpowered characters suffer massively. And when they try to balance around the non-overpowered characters, the overpowered characters trivialize the content. Shocking, groundbreaking news. Like, what did you think was going to happen when you have overpowered characters? So it took them like a year to decide to realize that, and now they want to nerf Ines to some degree. And people are upset and others are not upset. But what I found funny is they said nerf Ines to Freyna's level and that Freyna is overpowered, and they forgot that Bunny existed, and Bunny was doing Freyna and Ines things long before either of them. And if you weren't playing a character, or if you if you found the character annoying, you had to suffer through all of that nonsense for months on end. But no, so after the devs said, okay, no nerf, we're going to buff everybody to be as overpowered as Bunny, which, by the way, I did say that was not the answer. Because Bunny is overpowered in mob clearing. She's not good at Colossi fights, or boss fights. So if you buff everyone to be able to clear mobs as efficiently as she can, she's a dead character. There's no reason to use her. So it's just amusing. And sometimes I'm getting tired of this, where I will say something a few months or maybe even years ago, get downvoted and everything, and then sometime later, a few months or years later, the exact same thing that I predicted comes true. It happens time and time and time again, because now the devs put themselves in a very, very bad spot. They have already said or indicated that this game is a power fantasy, and so they want things to be this is what they said. They wanted things or characters to trivialize content. That was not a problem before, when it was Bunny. And when Glay can kill an entire boss in 6 seconds, that is not a problem. So question then, how do they plan to release bosses that Glay can kill in 6 seconds? And if they do that, what will the other Descendants, how will they fare in those bosses? Because being able to clear a void erosion or 400% dungeon of normal mobs, by the way, that's one thing, you know. But when you can obliterate a boss in 6 seconds, no, brother. That is a whole new level of overpowered. A whole new level. And don't forget that some of the more difficult materials to get are a lot behind defeating bosses. So, by their logic, they need to nerf Glay. Let's say they nerf Glay to Valby level. How do you think that would make the remaining players feel? You see, the problem is they did not nerf Bunny when they had the chance. They should have nerfed Bunny literally over a year ago. That would have kept the power scaling in check. So you won't have to keep increasing the power of new characters in order to sell them. And it would highlight and elucidate the shortcomings, the pitfalls, the weaknesses of the content. So when you create new content, you don't make the same mistake. The RNG is too low, and there's RNGception going on, RNG upon RNG. The shape stabilizers don't do, or if they allowed you to pick a particular reward, it wouldn't be so bad. But the amorphous materials are difficult to get. But not difficult, actually difficult. They are slow to get, rather. So running the same missions become tiring if you don't have a character that can blaze through it very, very quickly. So that alone should tell you something. If you don't want characters to blaze through things very quickly, and this is what I was saying in the video a couple of months ago. You nerf Bunny to everyone else, but then you increase the amount of drops that the mission or the quest gives you. Something you need to modify it, because once you nerf Bunny, you can see the pitfalls. So as I was saying, the acquisition of the amorphous materials are too low. Try to increase the acquisition. Maybe we have some useless code or useless rewards in it. Maybe reshuffle those. The shape stabilizers are too hard to get. Maybe make them easier to get or more reliable to get. And when you get them, all it does is vary the percentage. Maybe allow them to allow us to pick what reward we want. Maybe these are things that could have been explored if they nerfed that damn character a year ago. And now, it will be particularly distasteful if you nerf Ines to Freyna and then nerf Freyna, because they did mention nerfing Freyna before, and everyone just goes back to Bunny. So I didn't buy Ines because she was easy to farm. But I did buy the skin, obviously. And with this, I am not going to spend any more money on this game. Honestly. And at first, as I said, it might sound hypocritical. But as I said, the problem is when they had the chance a year ago to nerf the free character, they did not. And now you have a case where, because for example, I wouldn't buy a skin for, let's say, Glay, because I don't like using that character. So if Ines wasn't that good, maybe I wouldn't have bought the skin for her. In which case, this is theft. One could argue that this is theft. But you see, they need people to buy stuff in order to keep the game afloat. It is not a charity. So they really shot themselves in the foot by not nerfing Bunny and now nerfing Ines. That's what I think.